Hello. On initial glance at the title of this chat, your intuitive reaction may be, well, I already know myself. Easy as that. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're just fooling yourself. Maybe you're just walking around declaring stuff. Who am I to know? Come, let's look into this. There are certain things I have no doubt you know about yourself. You know your name, know you? And you know who you socially are, how you act, what you're good at and not, and who you are versus who you pretend to be. I'm sure you know your tastes, your traits, your beliefs, your limits, your virtues, your vices, and so much more. And given that you are well evolved, you may even know what you want, how others see you, how much you esteem yourself, what you want to do with your life. But that still leaves a lot to know. Do you know why you do what you do? What is your real self beyond psychological makeup? What you are, your conscience, your delusion? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So what does to know yourself mean? Well, it's a long discussion, but to summarize everything, to me it means to become yourself, to master yourself, and to transcend yourself. Why does knowing yourself matter, one may ask? Well, here are some of the reasons why it matters. It makes you like your own company without feeling lonely. It saves you from mistaken ambition. It brings happiness and fulfillment. It helps you make better life choices. It makes you more thoughtful about others. It saves you from being blindsided by your psychological makeup. It helps you know if anything is problematic about yourself. It makes you more pleasant to be around. It guides you to the best of your talents, freedom, and independence. Now, why is it so hard to know yourself? Shouldn't it be the easiest thing to do? Is it because of laziness or lack of intelligence? No, none of that. In fact, there are some cognitive flaws that make self-knowledge hard to master. Some of these are our minds are divided into conscious and unconscious processes because we simply can't afford to filter everything through the conscious mind. What does that mean? That means self-awareness comes late in our development. We have to make an effort to bring more of our life into conscious realm. Second, we are more emotional than rational. A lot of our life is dominated by automatic distorting responses by the emotion generating parts of the brain. Third reason why it's difficult to know ourselves is Freudian resistance, which means you have an extraordinary resistance to making a lot of our unconscious material conscious, because unconscious is more comfortable. We escape admitting to certain parts of it. We just avoid it. Number four, other people won't tell us what's hard for us to see without the help of another person. Plus, getting hold of data from others is a very unreliable process that lacks objectivity. It depends on the person. You have to know the person very well also. Otherwise, you cannot interpret or decipher what they are telling you. You have to know their personality, their motives, where they're coming from. Number five is our ability to project is always about telling ourselves a story in answer to the question, what did that really mean? So you ask yourself and then you project. Mental projection can make us feel as if we are seeing things as they are, and they may be different. 6. Simple but important. Life isn't long or varied enough. Most bits of self-knowledge only come through experience. So most of other knowledge is transferable, inheritable. Self-knowledge is something we have to do on ourselves through a life process, and that takes time. That takes a lot of experience, a lot of varied experience. Now let me get to the point of this discussion and offer you some pointers to know yourself. First thing you must understand is that it's okay not to know yourself. Yes, take your time. Don't feel rushed to declare yourself as somebody, something, anything. It's not obligatory to brand yourself. Take your time. Number 2, cultivate humility. Acknowledge the infirmity of your beliefs and the paucity of your knowledge. One big barrier in achieving self-knowledge is hubris. Know that confidence is not an indication of your degree of correctness. Beyond knowing simple things like when we are hungry or that we prefer coffee over tea, the fact is that opinions we have are just opinions. And therefore, don't make haste to distill opinions from your knowledge. Be skeptical of your opinions. Take time to form them. It's quite possible that who you think you are is not who you are. Number three, explore and experiment. Knowledge of self often comes from open, free, experimental exploration. And then own your time. The world is in a race to swallow your time and attention, especially in today's world. Don't be manipulated, steer yourself. Number five, make out who you are not. Back away from everything that isn't you and see what's left. It's quite possible that may be you. Interpret others' behavior, develop a capacity to interpret their behavior rather than merely react to it automatically. Think what causes the behavior instead of simply seeing in terms of how it affects you. Number seven, understand your mind. Self-knowledge requires describing more accurately how one feels, becoming more aware of how the self-machine works and how your mind operates and distorts things. Just as we can learn how the body works, we can also learn how the mind works. We can learn to distinguish which of our hopes, fears, and desires belong to the reptilian mind and which are soundly founded in higher rationality. Our minds are filled with ideas that seem to be rationally founded but actually aren't and are owed to unrecognized physical or psychological processes. Then, number eight, ask yourself one of the key ways in which you can get to know yourself is through self-talk. Self-talk is an achievement. You need to learn it. What would you most like to be complimented on in a relationship? Where do you think you're especially good as a person? Which of your flaws do you want to be treated more generously? What would you tell your younger self in a situation? What do you like? What do you don't like? What matters to you? What drives you? What do you do? Why do you do what you do? What do you admire in others? And so on. Number nine. Foster a capacity to observe your crude impulses. Build more empathy, learn to unmove from the grip of your primitive, defensive, and aggressive thought processes and relinquish your ego. You can then look at the world without the usual filter of your interests, passions, and needs. When you're not obsessed with your own life, you can fuse with transient things, trees, wind caressing your cheek, waves breaking on the shore, anything. From that higher point of view, status doesn't seem important, possessions don't seem to matter, grievances lose their urgency. I know in a world where you're often obliged to fight your corner, you can't be in that higher state at all times, don't get me wrong. But you still have to harvest it and preserve it so that you can have access to it when you need it most. Number 10, be suspicious of your own feelings. They can be deceptive. Build a capacity to stand aside from feelings to be able to distinguish between what you feel about a situation and what it might actually be. Let the data of your rational mind overrule your feeling, just as we did when we acknowledged that the earth isn't flat, didn't we? Remember how we deal with children. We look beyond what seems and try to picture what's going on beneath what we can see of the child's behavior. Gaining self-knowledge requires you to perform the same exercise on yourself to understand your function. Number 11, be wary of over-intellectualizing. Babies know this well. They are usefully unintellectual. Don't let your thoughts, feelings, and anxieties to trouble you without good purpose. Most often, anxiety and excitement aren't trying to tell you anything especially valuable. Don't listen to them. Push unfocused objects of consciousness to the periphery of your mind, leaving a central space empty and serene. You require big things in life, money, status, love, whatever, but you also need little things too. Sunshine, sensory pleasures, enough sleep, don't you? Of course, enjoy them. Number 12, make sense of your past. Early life experiences often determine how we define and defend ourselves. It isn't just the things that happen to us that define who we become, but how much we have made sense of what has happened to us. Life story coherence is important, as a coherent narrative of your life helps you make mindful, conscious decisions in your present that represent your true self. To know yourself, you have to know your story. Simple. Be brave and willing to explore it. Be willing to look at the source of your most self-limiting or self-deceiving limitation. Start to separate from the more harmful influences from your history and take charge of your behavior to reflect how you choose to be in the world. Then, how others perceive you. Sometimes knowledge about us is surprisingly obvious and easy for an outsider to get hold of, and we may not know it. We can find it difficult to grasp how other people see us. So denial or pomposity often mean that the gap between self-perception and the point of view of others is richly comic. So be receptive to others' perception of you in order to reconcile to a more accurate picture of yourself. Ask people you trust for feedback and consider it with an open mind. Number 14, decipher your tastes. Aesthetic preferences can yield revealing insights as personal taste reflects other things about us. Aesthetic preference is often connected to the pursuit of balance. For example, an anxious person may be attracted to serene environments. We may seek neglected parts of ourselves in objects. So your taste can tell you a lot about yourself. And number 15, nothing works as a permanent answer. This is the last bit and most important. Knowing yourself is a journey that's long enough to outlast a human lifespan. It's long, it's winding. Stay alert, keep discovering, keep learning. There's no destination where you will know everything about yourself or a point where there is no room to change what you know about yourself. And finally, remember that what's the reward of doing all this? The reward is yourself. The reward is that you know yourself and it's worth taking. Believe me, take it. Alright? Well, I trust you found it useful. If you have been on the quest of knowing yourself and have some insights to share, please do so in the comments below. Let others gain from you, would you? Take care till the next time. Thank you.